DOGE and Elon Musk find 5.5 million non-citizens with Social Security numbers, 1.1 million on Medicaid, and many registered to vote as President Trump issues an election integrity executive order. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government and Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button. Today, I'm just going to jump right into it. We're talking about Elon Musk at a town hall rally in Wisconsin for the Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate, Brad Schimel. Was talking about election integrity, but also what DOGE is uncovering at the Social Security Administration, which is more than 5 million people were added, non-citizens, to get Social Security numbers beginning in 2021. And that's a substantial increase in the amount of non-residents or non-citizens, I should say, who are allowed to get these numbers. And a lot of them included these so-called asylum seekers. But I just wanted you to hear directly from Elon Musk himself, and also from Antonio Gracias. He is a person working with DOGE to uncover some of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And you just got to hear this for yourselves. It's quite unbelievable.
So we're trying to stop all these things, to say like, okay, well, let's stop the waste and fraud, and we also need to turn off the massive financial incentive for illegals to come to the United States and stay in the United States. And this is really the thing that is causing the Democrats to lose their mind. You know, because they're actually spending, at this point, tens of billions to attract and retain illegals in the United States. It's really on that scale. It's a gigantic number. And the goal is to turn all the swing states blue. That means Wisconsin. So that's the goal. So with the asylum program, if they can get a green card within a year, and then they can get citizenship as quickly as 4 years after getting a green card, because the first year of being asylum counts for the 5-year citizenship waiting period. So this is a very big deal. A number of friends of mine have actually joined the government and in order to help with this process. And I'd like to welcome my friend Antonio Gracias to the stage. I think so. Let's see, does it work? I can give you mine. Does it work? It'll be okay. I mean, Buzz Aldrin's still alive, and he went past the belts.
Is this working? Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, there you go. So, Antonio, can you tell us what you? Antonio is helping out with the Social Security. So, just trying to review Social Security, where you may have heard that we found 20 million dead people marked as alive in the Social Security database. This is so crazy. And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here, where how many Social Security numbers were issued. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of maybe.
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came with a big list of stuff they're working on. You've heard some of that already, but this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister are all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from DC to Social Security offices to the border to track this down. And very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're an illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people, okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already.
So there you go there. They've already been reported to the Department of Homeland Security for basically being referred to for investigation. And obviously this is quite outrageous to have people, and here you can see the full chart of the 5.5 million non-citizens receiving Social Security numbers during the Biden years. That's fiscal year 2021, 2022, 2023. It went from 270,000 to 590,000 to 964,000 to 2.1 million. And then in fiscal year 2025 at 964,000. 900,649, I should say. And that's quite a number of people, 5.5 million, and it was accelerating. Now, of those, DOGE, you just heard Mr. Gracias say that they had already identified 1.3 million who are collecting Medicaid. That's a $567 billion a year program. You can see the budget here. This is all the baseline spending by category. And for fiscal year 2024, total outlays was $6.8 trillion. Of that, $567 billion was for Medicaid. You can also see $839 billion for Medicare, $1.45 trillion for Social Security, $852 for defense billion, $965 billion non-defense, interest, net interest on the payment, on the debt, which is now $36 trillion, $890 billion. And so you get a total of $6.8 trillion for the entire budget. Of that, $567 billion was for Medicaid, and about 1.3 million non-citizens from this being added to Social Security database and getting these numbers were added to Medicaid. They shouldn't have been. That's a program for citizens. That's out of about 79.3 million people who collect Medicaid nationwide as of October 2024. This is actually below a March 2023 level of 94.2 million people who were receiving Medicaid as a result of continuous enrollment, which started in 2020 during COVID, where they would just keep on re-enrolling people, whether or not they were still eligible, because they thought that maybe it would be tough to, get to the office or something during COVID. And so that went on for a couple of years. And then COVID basically ballooned Medicaid recipients from 71.3 million to 94.2 million. Well, a bunch of those people have now been found to be ineligible. Now that continuous enrollment has ended, and you've gone from 94.2 million down to 79.3 million. But of those still receiving Medicaid are some of these non-citizens that were, it could have been asylum seekers. We have to get more into the details. But according to DOGE's Antonio Gracias, we've gone through every benefit program. We found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefits programs. But it's not just non-citizens collecting public benefits, as Gracias added, quote, and then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records, and we found people here registered to vote in this population. And we found some by sampling that actually did vote, and we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service. So generally now most Americans have to prove they are citizens to get Social Security numbers when they fill out the form SS5. Here you can see that here. This is the SS5. This was as of December 2024. Application for a Social Security card. And if you read the instructions from December of 2024, it states to apply for an original card, you must provide at least 2 documents to prove age, identity, and U.S. citizenship or current lawful work authorized immigration status. If you are not a U.S. citizen and do not have DHS work authorization, you must prove that you have a valid non-work reason for requesting a card. See page 2 for an explanation of acceptable documents. So there, legal aliens have been allowed for many, many years now to get Social Security numbers as well. And under the administration of former President Joe Biden, the Social Security numbers were also being were going to supposed asylum seekers who came here illegally. According to Gracias, quote, once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we've mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization. And then Social Security Administration automatically send you in the mail your Social Security number, no interview, no ID. And so I'm noting that there's just one problem with all this. The states very much depend on the integrity of the Social Security database under the Help America Vote Act via Help America Vote Verification, HAVV or HAVV, to verify eligibility to register to vote in the United States, which is reserved to citizens. And here you can see that database here. You can actually look up how many transactions there were under this Help America Vote verification. And in this is all for all of 2024. There were, let's see here, 16.2 million transactions. There were non-matches of about 3 million. So 3 million people tried to register to vote, but they didn't match the Social Security number in the database. And so they weren't allowed to do that. 13.2 million, however, were matched. And then of that, 13 million were said to be alive, but then single match deceased. This is the amount of people who applied for registered to vote, but were dead. Someone's trying to fill out an application for someone who's dead in the Social Security database, and that was 168,854. But this is before 20 million people were purged from the Social Security database because they were still said to be alive, even though they were over the age of 100. This is a well-known problem. Previous administrations have also looked at the problem of the Social Security death database not being updated. It's a big problem if you're trying to verify using this HAVV system to determine who's eligible to vote in the country based upon having a social security number. So you have dead people who were not properly removed from the database. And now we find out that there's people who were 5.5 million non-citizens were also added to the database in the past 4 years, and many of them are voting. We're learning from the White House Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. In 2024, the HAVV database, again, was queried 16 million times, 3 million non-matches, and another 168 matches for dead people. And that was before the Social Security Administration had just purged the 20 million deceased citizens. The implication is that states certainly need to rerun their voter registration databases against the Social Security HAVV database to remove the deceased. But the sheer amount of Social Security numbers being issued to aliens, 5.5 million in just the past 4 years, whether legal or not, exposes another critical flaw to the U.S. voting franchise. Currently, the HAVV system only purges deceased from the voter rolls and other things like out of state, felons, classes like that, but not non-citizens. They do not consider non-citizens, outlining the long-term danger this poses to the nation's two-party system. Musk noted in that at the Wisconsin town hall, quote, "The problem with this obviously is that if you turn the swing states blue, then there are no swing states. And then we're in a permanent one-party system. And as soon as they win that, they'll have the House, the Senate, the presidency, they'll pack the Supreme Court, and then they'll double down on the illegals, just like California." That I know, despite the fact that under 18 U.S. Code 611, it's totally illegal to vote if you're an alien. It shall be unlawful for any alien to vote in any election held solely or in part for the purpose of president, vice president, member of Senate, member of the House of Representatives, delegate for DC, etc. It's unlawful. And it's also unlawful to register to vote. Whoever knowingly makes any false statement under oath in any case, proceeding, or matter relating to or under or by virtue of any law of the United States relating to naturalization, citizenship, or registry of aliens, it's totally illegal to vote under F to register to vote that person in any federal, state, or local election, and then you could be fined or imprisoned for up to 5 years for registering non-citizens to vote. So it's a very serious federal crime, but it really hasn't been enforced. So this is where President Trump comes in, and he's got a new executive order preserving and protecting the integrity of the American elections. I wanted to pull that up. I guess I forgot to. I'll just go to Google here and paste it in, and we'll pull that thing up. Here it is. Preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections. On March 25th, executive order by President Trump. There's a little preamble here that there's, election day, and under federal laws, here we go, to enforce the federal prohibition on foreign nationals voting in the elections within 30 days, the Election Assistance Commission shall take appropriate action in its national mail voter registration form to provide that there be documentary proof of U.S. citizenship, and a state or local official to record on the form the type of document that the applicant presented as documentary proof of U.S. citizenship, including the date of the document's issuance, the document's expiration, the office that issued the document, and any unique identification numbers associated. You can use a U.S. passport, a military identification card, valid federal or state government ID, to identify, and we're going to use those to identify unqualified voters registered in the states. Also, the Attorney General shall prioritize enforcement of 18 U.S. Code 611. We just covered that up here, voting by aliens, and 18 U.S. Code 1015 in order to, where is it? And similar laws that restrict non-citizens from registering to vote or voting, including through use of databases and information maintained by the Department of Homeland Security, state-issued identification records and driver license databases, and similar records relating to citizenship. And then Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, shall, consistent with applicable laws, coordinate with state attorneys general to assist with state level review and prosecution of aliens unlawfully registered to vote or casting votes. So I think this is very serious. We just covered all that. Let's see here. This will include the deceased, who may still be on the voter rolls, to assist states in determining whether eligible people are eligible to register and vote. The Commissioner of Social Security shall take appropriate action to make available to the Social Security Verification Service the Death Master List and other federal databases containing relevant information to all state and local election officials engaged in verifying the eligibility of individuals registering to vote or who are already registered. In determining and taking such action, the Commissioner of Social Security shall ensure compliance with applicable privacy and data security laws and regulations. It also orders that, quote, the Attorney General take appropriate action with respect to states that fail to comply with the list maintenance requirements of the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act. And so I say this is being squarely laid at sanctuary states, counties, and cities that have sought to skirt federal immigration laws by harboring illegal aliens and may even be helping them to register to vote on purpose, with the goal of establishing one-party rule. Now, the Help America Vote Act actually requires here it is here. It was passed in the 107th Congress of the United States, and this is the Help America Vote Act. And it requires every state to maintain a computerized statewide voter registration list and make reasonable efforts to purge those lists of ineligible voters. But the only two criteria are if a person dies or if they move to an out of state. And so what about non-citizens? And what of the states that refuse to purge the non-citizens? Well, because right now you're going to have a big problem, right? You just removed 20 million people from the Social Security database that were dead. And now we're looking at 5.5 million under non-citizens with Social Security numbers. The federal government, the president, DOGE, the Social Security Administration, they're going to be, and the Attorney General are all going to be going to these states and localities and saying, hey, wait a second, you've got illegal aliens on your voting rolls. You should really remove those. So what if they refuse? Well, I'm noting it's already illegal for non-citizens to either vote or register to vote, as noted above. And under 18 U.S. Code 371, it's if you have a conspiracy to commit offenses or to defraud the United States, two or more people that are doing that. Well, here's some offenses: voting by aliens, registering people to vote illegally. Well, you might have a conspiracy to do that by these sanctuary states, cities, and counties. So could the appropriate action President Trump is directing Attorney General Bondi to take under the order to prosecute people for conspiracy to defraud the United States? Maybe for states, counties, and cities, and might be better to not find out and to instead just purge the voter rolls and public benefits of ineligible persons. I think this is developing very quickly, and I say stay tuned. And that's my piece. This is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government and Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. Have a good day. There's Elon Musk and Antonio Gracias talking about these non-citizens being added to the voting database. And so let's go to the chat here and see. We got one chat here. Here's Betsy Burns. Thank you, Robert, for showing this. Every citizen needs to see this so they have an understanding of how and what DOGE is doing is plain. Yeah, I think that DOGE is doing a very good job. Obviously, there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. If you have 1.3 million people collecting Medicaid, or, well, their doctors are collecting Medicaid on their behalf. So you have Medicaid, it's like an insurance policy. And then, that pays out to doctors and nurses and doctors' offices for or pharmacists to get medicines and things like that. Well, it's about $7,100 per person for the 79 million people that costs $567 billion a year. That works out to about $8 billion of waste a year for these 1.3 million people who are on Medicaid. That shouldn't be, they're non-citizens. They shouldn't be collecting it. But now you can also use these 5.5 million Social Security numbers to basically register to vote. You got 20 million people who are dead, who were still in the database. We got to remove them from the rolls as well. I think this is a real big problem. And so there's more to the waste, fraud, and abuse that DOGE is uncovering than simply just money. This might be the greatest instance of voter registration fraud in American history, and they're already finding people and they're being referred for prosecution. So if not for the efforts of DOGE to clean up the Social Security Administration database, we might not have uncovered all of these people who are, shouldn't be registered to vote because they're either non-citizens or they're dead. And I think that's a travesty, but I'm glad that they're looking into it. Here's Stephanie Lynn, and there's no tracking, just like licenses in the USPS, U.S. Postal Service. So they're not tracking people the way they should be, but states do depend on this database, this HAVV, Help America Vote Verification database under the Help America Vote Act. They look at Social Security records and they say, are you an eligible person in the Social Security Administration to vote? And I live in Virginia. They use Social Security numbers to verify eligibility to vote. And, that works great as long as all the dead people are removed and they're not issuing Social Security numbers to non-citizens. But they are issuing Social Security numbers to non-citizens. And I think that's a very big problem that's going to, really kind of pollute the franchise with people who are just not eligible. But now President Trump is ordering that the voter rolls be purged of non-citizens and dead people. So obviously this will be heading to federal court. Again, this is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government and Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.